attempts to go to Vrindavan. Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktivinoda
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktivinoda
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktivinoda
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for inviting me to come. Try to come every Sunday. Hare Krishna. So we're reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita, how the Lord attempts to go to Vrindavan. So text 211. No, I can't see. I can't see. Put it down. Translation. And purports by His Divine Grace, the Boy Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Nitai Gaur Premanandi. The Lord then visited the village known as Ramakeli and the place known as Kenayanathishala. From there he returned to Shantipur. How many of you been to Ramakeli? Anybody visited? Anyone? Lots of places to see there. Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami were born there. They lived. Jiva Goswami was a small baby at that time. Mahaprabhu visited Rupa and Sanatana there, and he put his lotus feet on the head of Jiva Goswami, who could remember the incidents, but he was very young. That place is also similar to Vrindavan. They have Radha Kund, Shamkund, Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami. They are eternal inhabitants of Vrindavan, so generally their places of bhajan manifest. So, just like the at the Jogpit here, we have Shamakundam Radha Kunda, the Chaitanya Maha. I asked the one of the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Damodaran Maharaj, why you had Shamakund Radha Kund here at the Jogpit? It's in Mayapur. According to the Nabhidam Mahatmya, Radha Kund is in Ritudweep, the other side of the Ganga. So why they have a Govardhan hill and Govardhan hill is situated in Navadvip, that's Golddeep area, Govardhan. And Radha Kundi's Ritudweep. So I said, why are you having them? When the Navadvip Mahatma says that they were they're in different islands. And anyway, he replied to me that when the pure devotees they are doing their bhajan, because of that intensity of the bhajan, then the bhajan ashtam becomes manifested. The place of their eternal worship becomes manifested. So he said, now my Guru Maharaj is sitting, his samadhi is here, Gopishore samadhi is there. So, but actually they're sitting on the bank of Radha Kund and Govardhan. So, Ramakali is like that. The different places, because they're also eternal servants of Radha and Krishna and Rupa and Sanatana. So they were doing their bhajans there, so this place is manifested. So Radha Kund is there, Govardhan is there, Shamakund. Text 212. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed in Shantipal for 10 days. This has already been described very elaborately by Vrindavan Das Thakur. I will not narrate these instances because they have already been described by Vrindavan Das Thakur. There is no need of repeating the same information, for repetition would unlimitedly increase the size of this book. These narrations tell how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met the brothers Rupa and Sanatana, and how Nrsingananda decorated the road. I have already described these in an earlier synopsis of this book, and therefore I will not repeat it of these narrations anymore. So this information is from the Adi Leela 10:35, Madhya Leela 155-162 and 175-226. So that was a description you read earlier, how Nrsingananda was meditating from Mahaprabhu to Vrindavan. So in his meditation he created a beautiful road with water canals each side, with blossoming flowers everywhere, birds like green parrots making this sound. Saptagram. It's also known as Adi Saptagram. They were residents of Saptagram and had an annual income of 1,200,000 rupees. Hiranya and Govardhana were inhabitants of Saptagram in the district of Hooghly, near to Calcutta, Hooghly district. Actually, they were inhabitants not of Saptagram but of a nearby village named Krishnapur. They took their birth in the big Kayastha family, and although their family title has not been ascertained, it is known that they came from an aristocratic family. The elder brother's name was Hiranya Majumdar, and the younger brothers were Govardhana Majumdar and Raghunath Das. Raghunath Das was the son of Govardhan Majumdar. Their family priest was Balaram Acharya, who was a devotee, who was a favorite of Haridas Thakur. And the family spiritual master was Jadunandan Acharya, the favorite of Vasudeva Datta. The village of Saptagram is now located on the eastern railway from Calcutta to Burdwan, and the present railway station is called Trispiga. In those days there was a large river known as the Saraswati, and present day Trispiga is a great port. In 1592, the Patanas invaded, and due to flooding, in 1592, the Patanas invaded, and due to the flooding of the Saraswati River in the year 1632, this great port was partially destroyed. It is said that there in the 17th and 18th centuries, the Portuguese businessmen would come aboard their ships. In those days, Saptagram was situated on the southern side of the Bengal. It was very rich and popular. The merchants who were the principal residents were called Saptagram Shuvarna Vaniks. They were very, very rich people. Many rich people there. And Hiranya Majumdara and Govardhan Majumdara belonged to the Kayastha community. They also were very rich, so much so that it is mentioned in this verse that their annual income as landlords amounted to 1,200,000 rupees. In this connection, one may refer to the Hari Leela, chapter 11, verse 41, which describes Udaranadatta, who belonged to the Saptagram Sarvana Shavanik community. King wanted to borrow some money from Ajuntas, and somehow or another they didn't give him enough what he wanted, so he was a bit angry, so then he formed a kind of committee, the king, and he pushed these Subarna Malik family. They lost their caste as more respect. They pushed them down because he wouldn't give them a big enough loan of money. And since that time they've been considered a lower class, but still many great devotees in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates were born and associated with the devotees. Prabhupada also had his family had some connection, slight connection somewhere. I think he describes it in another purport. Udaranadatta, Adi Saptagram, that's Raghunath Das Goswami was the good. Now their places, I think they manufacture wine or something like that. When you go past that place, it smells clay pots like this huge, full of wine, fermenting wine. Both Hiranya Majumdara and Govardhan Majumdara were very opulent and magnanimous. They were very, very behaved and devoted to Brahminical culture. They belonged to an aristocratic family and among religionists they were very prominent. Practically all the Brahmana residents of Nadia were dependent on the charity of Hiranya Govardhana, who gave them money, land and villages. Although Navadvip was very opulent and populous during Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time, practically all the Brahmanas depended on the charity of Hiranya and Govardhana. Because the brothers highly respected the Brahmanas, they were very liberally given them money. Nilambara Chakravarti, the grandfather of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was much worshipped by the two brothers. But Nilambara Chakravarti used to treat them as his own brothers. Formerly these two brothers had rendered much service to Mr. Purandara, the father of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because of this, the Lord knew them very well. Raghunath Das Goswami was the son of Govardhana Majumdar. From childhood he was uninterested in material enjoyment. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to Shantipur, after accepting the renounced order, Raghunath Das met him. When Raghunath Das went to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he fell at the feet of the lotus feet of the Lord in ecstatic love, showing him mercy. The Lord touched him with his feet. Raghunath Das' father, Govardhan, always rendered much service to Advaita Acharya. Consequently, Advaita Acharya was very pleased with his family. Prabhupada said that they were the father was Raghunath Das and his brothers. He said they weren't really devotees. Real devotees. They had so much money, but they would give it very, very liberally. But in their hearts, Prabhupada said, I think, quoting Bhaktivedanta, they weren't real devotees. Mahaprabhu said something about them, joking. They have a lot of money and they're very liberal, but they seem more like pious than pious people. After bidding farewell to Raghunath Das, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to Jagannath Puri, and returning home, Raghunath Das became mad with ecstatic love. His father even had 5 watchmen guarding for him day and night. 4 personal servants were there to look after his comforts, and 2 brahmanas were employed to cook for him. In this way, 11 people were incessantly keeping Raghunath Das under control, and thus he could not go to Jagannath Puri. Because of this, he was very unhappy. When Raghunath Das learned Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had arrived in Shantipur, he submitted a request to his father. Raghunath Das asked his father, please give me permission to see the lotus feet of the Lord. If you do not, my life will not remain in this body. Hearing this request, Raghunath Das' father agreed, giving him many servants and materials. The father sent him to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, requesting him to return soon. For 7 days, Raghunath Das associated with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Shantipur. During these days and nights, he had the following thoughts. Raghunath Das thought, how shall I ever be able to get free from the hands of the watchman? How shall I be able to go with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Nilachala? Since Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was omniscient, he could understand Raghunath Das's mind. But the Lord therefore instructed him by following reassuring words. Be patient and return home. Don't be a crazy fellow. By and by, you will be able to cross the ocean of material existence. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-58. This material world is just like a big ocean. It begins with Brahmaloka and extends to Patalaloka. And there are many planets or islands in the ocean. Not knowing about the ocean of service, the living entities wanders about this ocean, just as a man tries to swim to reach the shore. Our struggle for our existence is similar to this. Everyone is trying to get out of the ocean of material existence. One cannot immediately reach the coast, but if one endeavors, he can cross the ocean by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. One may be very eager to cross this ocean, but he cannot attain success by acting like a madman. He must swim over the ocean very patiently and intelligently under the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is representative. Then, one day, he will reach the shore and return home back to Godhead. Back to Godhead Ki. You should not make yourself a show bottle devotee and become a false renunciant. For the time being, enjoy material world in a befitting way, but do not become attached to it. So enjoyment is okay in the material world. The problem is the attachment. You become attached, that is the problem. Actual enjoyment is the problem. You should not make yourself purple. The word Marukata Viagra indicates renunciation. This is very important in this verse. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, as commenting on this word, pointed out that the monkeys make external show of renunciation by not accepting clothing and by living naked in the forest. In this way, they consider themselves renunciants, but actually they are very busy enjoying sense gratification with dozens of female monkeys. Such renunciation is called Marukata Vairagya, the renunciation of the monkey. One cannot be really renounced until one actually becomes disgusted with material activities and sees it as a stumbling block to spiritual advancement. Renunciation should not be vulgar, temporary, but should exist throughout one's life. Temporary renunciation or monkey renunciation is like the renunciation one feels at the cremation ground. When a man takes a dead body to the crematorium, he sometimes thinks, this is the final end of the body. Why am I working so hard day and night? Such sentiments naturally arise in the mind of any man who goes to a crematorial cremation. However, as soon as he returns from the cremation ground, he again engages in material activities of sense enjoyment. This is called or smashana vairaga, or marketa vairaga. Smashana means burning. The burning fire. Smashana, and vairaga means renunciation. So the word is used here, smashana vairaga, cremation or renunciation at the crematorium. In order to render service to the Lord, one may accept necessary things. If one lives in this way, he may actually become renounced. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1:208, it is said, the bare necessities of life must be accepted, but one should not superfluously increase the necessities, nor should one be unnecessarily decreased. One should simply accept what is necessary to help one advance spiritually. In his Duragama Shankamani, Sri Jiva Goswami comments that the word Shva Nivaha means Shva Bhakti Nivaha. The experienced devotee will accept only those material things to help him render service to the Lord. In the Hari Bhakti, in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1:256, it is explained, when a person eager to achieve liberation renounces things related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thinking them to be material, their renunciation is incomplete. Whatever is favorable for their renunciation is called incomplete. Whatever is favorable for renunciation of service to the Lord should be accepted and should not be rejected as material things. Befitting renunciation is thus explained. Things should be accepted for the Lord's service and not for one's personal sense gratification. If one accepts something without attachment and accepts it because it's related to Krishna, one's renunciation is called Yukta Vairaga. Since Krishna is the absolute truth, whatever is accepted for his service is also the absolute truth. The word Markata Vairaga is used by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to indicate so-called Vaishnavas who dress themselves in loincloths trying to imitate Rupa Goswami. Such people carry a bead bag and chant, but at heart they're always thinking about getting women and getting money. Unknown to others, these Markata Vairagas maintain women, but externally present themselves as renunciants. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very much opposed to these Markata Vairagas, or Shuddha devotees. 239. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, within your heart you should keep yourself very faithful, but externally you may behave like an ordinary man. Thus Krishna will very soon be pleased and deliver you from the clutches of Maya. You may see me at Nilachala Mahaprabhu when I return after visiting Vrindavan. At that time, you can think of some trick to escape. What kind of means you will have to use at this time will be revealed by Krishna. If one has Krishna's mercy, no one can check him. Although Sri Raghunath Das Goswami was anxious to join Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord advised him to wait for the mercy of Lord Krishna. He recommended that Raghunath Das keep his Krishna consciousness firmly fixed in his heart, while externally behaving like an ordinary person. This is a trick for everyone advancing in Krishna consciousness. One should live like a society, in a society like an ordinary human being, but at the same time, one's own business should be to satisfy Krishna and spread his glories. A Krishna conscious person should not be absorbed in material things, while the only business is the devotional service of the Lord. If one can engage in this way, Krishna will certainly bestow his mercy, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised Raghunath Das. This means that one must have no desire within his heart other than to serve Krishna. On the basis of such a conviction, one can cultivate Krishna consciousness. This is the confirmation of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-200. The devotee may act as an ordinary human being or as a strict follower of the Vedic injunction. In either case, everything he does is favourable for advancement in devotional service, because he is in Krishna consciousness. So a very famous principle in this one. Accept what is favourable for Krishna consciousness and reject what's unfavourable for Krishna consciousness. Mahaprabhu often quote that. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bade farewell to Raghunath Das, then returned home and did exactly what the Lord told him. After returning home, Raghunath Das gave up all craziness and external pseudo-renunciation and engaged in his household duties without attachment. When Raghunath Das' father and mother saw their son was acting like a householder, they became very happy. Because of this, they slackened their guard. When Raghunath Das Goswami's father and mother saw their son was no longer acting like a crazy man and was responsibly attending to the duties, they became very happy. The 11 people, 5 watchmen, 4 personal attendants, and 2 brahmanas, who were guarding him, became less strict about their vigilance. When Raghunath Das was actually took up his household affairs, his parents reduced the number of guards. Meanwhile, at Shantipur, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu assembled with his devotees, headed by Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu. He embraced them all and asked their permission to return to Jagannath Puri. So Mahaprabhu would often visit Shantipur. How many devotees have been in Shantipur? It's not far from here, it's about 1 hour's drive. His house is in a big orchard, mango orchard. Very peaceful, quiet place. And Prabhupada, one time he was thinking of establishing ISKCON headquarters in Shantipur. He said, I didn't know whether to make our center in Mayapur or Shantipur. And he said, I chose Mayapur. Text 247. Because he had met them all at Shantipur, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu requested all the devotees not to go to Jagannath Puri that year. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I shall certainly go to Vrindavan from Jagannath Puri. If you will give me your permission, I shall return here again without difficulty. Clasping the feet of his mother, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very humbly requested her permission, and she gave him leave to go to Vrindavan. Sachimata then was sent back to Navadvip, and the Lord and his devotees started for Jagannath Puri, Niladri. The devotees who accompanied Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rendered all kinds of service on the way to Nilachala, Jagannath Puri, and thus in great happiness the Lord returned. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived at Jagannath Puri, he visited the temple of the Lord. News spread all over the city that he had returned. All the devotees then came to meet the Lord in great happiness, and the Lord embraced each of them with great ecstatic love. Kashi Mishra Ramananda Roy Pradyumna Sharvabhum Bhattacharya, Marinath Rai, Shiki Mahiti, and all the other devotees met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gadadhar Pandit also came to meet the Lord, and before all the devotees, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to speak as follows. It was my decision to go to Vrindavan through Bengal in order to see my mother and the river Ganges. Thus I went to Bengal, but thousands of devotees began to follow me. Many hundreds of thousands of people came to see me out of curiosity, and due to such a large crowd, I could not travel very freely on the road. Indeed, the crowd was so large that the house and the boundary walls of the house where I stayed were destroyed, and whatever large crowds. With great difficulty I went to the town of Ramakelli, where I met the two brothers named Rupa and Shinotun. These two brothers are great devotees and suitable recipients of Krishna's mercy. But in their ordinary dealing, Nawab Hussain Shah was the king at that time. Nawab Hussain Shah was. In Krishna Lila he was Jarasandha. And in Gaur Lila he is Nawab Hussain Shah. He was originally from Abyssinia, from Abyssinian tribes. They were raised the Abyssinians, still there. So they were the servants of the Moguls. They captured them and made them servants from Abyssinia. And over the years and generations, as they increased so much in number, they became they were the servants, they became very powerful. And then they actually took over. They become the kings. So that was the Abyssinians. So this was Jarasandha was an Abyssinian. But they didn't trust him. Sri Rupa and Sanatana are very experienced in education, devotional service, intelligence and strength. Yet they think themselves inferior to straw in the street. Indeed, the humility of these two brothers couldn't even melt a stone. Because I was very pleased with their behavior, I told them, although you are both very much exalted, you consider yourselves inferior. And because of this, Krishna will very soon deliver you. Such are the qualifications of the pure devotee. Materially one may be very opulent, experienced, influential, and educated. But if one still thinks himself lower than a straw in the street, one actually attracts the attention of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord Krishna. Although Maharaj Prataparuddha was a king, he took up a broom to cleanse the road for Lord Jagannath's Radha. Because of his humble service, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very pleased with the king. And for that reason, the Lord embraced him. According to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction, the devotee should never be puffed up by material power. He should know that material power is the result of one's past good activities, karma, and is consequently transient. At any one moment, all of one's material opulences can be finished. All of one's material opulences can be finished. Therefore, a devotee should never be proud of such opulence. He is always humble and meek, considering himself lower than a piece of straw. Because of this, the devotees are eligible to return back home, back to God. Back to Godhead Ki. If you think yourself lower than a straw in the street, qualification, you can go back to Godhead. And this was the attitude of Rupa and Sanatan. When Mahaprabhu first went to Ramakeli, they approached him with straw in their teeth. It's a sign of humility, they got a piece of grass in their teeth. And then many people think I'm a learned man. They call me Pandit. Actually, I am Pandit. I know Urdu, I know Sanskrit, I know Farsi, I know Hindi or whatever the current language. And I'm a minister. And people say you are very Pandit, and I think yes, I am very Pandit. But actually I'm grateful because I do not know who I am. So this is how I should approach a spiritual master. Falling down the grass straw in the street and praying to the Lord, I do not know who I am. And I'm acting as if I'm someone big. This is our relationship, Sambandha. We're always in this mood of trying to be a humble servant. After speaking to them in this way, I bade farewell. And as I was leaving, Sanatan told me it is not appropriate for one to be followed by a crowd of thousands when going to Vrindavan. Although I heard this, I did not pay it any attention. And in the morning I went to the place named Kanai-Nathashala. Kanai-Nathashala is Gupta Vrindavan. It's known as secret Vrindavan. It's a very remote place. It's a mining town. They were mining the China clay. The deity revealed there. Because the service of Radha Kanai to ISKCON. So we were expanding that place, and we wanted to move these footprints, Radha and Krishna's footprints, which were like carved on the column, you know, Prabhupada Samadhi, they got this like that, Radha, carved out of a block, a big block of stone or marble, it must be marble. And so we wanted to move these deities because we made a new facility. So we were digging down, going down, stone column. And finally they reached the end and they pulled it out from the ground. I think that place where the column has been resting was a beautiful deity first, and then install the main deity, because he's the deity of protection. So, yeah, so when we took him, because it's on the hill, going down to the Ganga, so we brought him, Shingadev down, and then when you see in the light, sunshine, it was a greenish colour, the stones, with the sun shining on it, you can see it was a greenish kind of stone. I don't know what it was. But anyway, so Shingadev manifested himself there. Although I heard this, I did not pay any attention. And in the morning I went to the place called Jananivas. So this is the, I don't think this here is it. Story. No, but this is where when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived at Jananivas, and he saw Krishna there. He had a darshan of Krishna. The place is not different than Vrindavan. He saw Krishna. And from that time he said he started to transform into, instead of Nimai Pandit, now he was going to be Gaurashundar, the great devotee. So when Mahaprabhu came back to Bengal, they saw this transformation. And so Mahaprabhu said, you come tonight to Shukramba Brahmachari's house. I want to tell you about my travels. And so they all came at night, and Mahaprabhu was revealing them about his. And he said, but then I went to Jananivas. He said, and then I saw Krishna. He was standing there, that beautiful blue, playing on the flute, and he was calling me. I went too quick to catch Krishna, but I couldn't catch him, he disappeared. And he disappeared, come on. And again I would go rush towards him, and he disappeared. Where is Krishna? How Krishna? Krishna? And he went to, first started to exhibit all the symptoms of ecstasy. And that Jananivas, he'll never be the same again. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went there. He was never the same again. So if you want to remain the same, don't go to Jananivas. Translation 12:269. I decided that Sanatan had spoken very well. I was certainly being followed by a large crowd. And when people would see me, so many men, they would surely rebuke me, saying, here is another impostor. Thus I began to consider, that Vrindavan is not a very solitary place. It's a very solitary place. It's not very good. Now once you go to Vrindavan with so many men, except when you do the Braj Prikrama you can go. It's okay. Therefore I have resolved to go there alone or at the utmost with one servant. In this way my journey to Vrindavan will be beautiful. I thought instead of going to Vrindavan alone, I'm going with soldiers and the beating of drums. I therefore said, "Fee on me." I was very much agitated, and I returned to the bank of the Ganges. I then left all the devotees there and brought only 5 or 6 persons with me. Now I wish that you all will be pleased with me and give me good counsel. Tell me how I should be able to go to Vrindavan without impediments. I left Radha Pandit here, and he became very unhappy. For this reason, I could not go to Vrindavan. Being encouraged by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's words, Radha Pandit became absorbed in ecstatic love. Immediately, clasping the lotus feet of the Lord, he began to speak with all humility. Radha Pandit said, "Wherever you stay is Vrindavan, as well as the river Jamuna and the river Ganges and all other places of pilgrimage. Although wherever you stay is Vrindavan, you will still go to Vrindavan just to instruct people. Otherwise, you will do whatever you think best. There are also the river Ganges and the river Jamuna and all other places of pilgrimage. This was also expressed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself when he danced at the Rath Yatra. At that time he said that his very mind was Vrindavan. Vrindavan, Oramana Vrindavana. Because his mind was Vrindavan, all the pastimes of Radha and Krishna were taking place within himself. Nonetheless, just to teach to the people, he visited Bhoma Vrindavan, Vrindavan Dham in this material world. In this way, the Lord's instruction, everyone to visit Vrindavan, which is a very holy place. Materialists consider Vrindavan Dham to be an unclean city because there are so many monkeys and dogs there. And along the bank of the Jamuna there is refuse. Some time ago a materialistic man asked me, "Why are you living in Vrindavan? Why have you selected such a dirty place to live after retiring?" Such person cannot understand that the earthly Vrindavan Dham representation of the original Vrindavan Dham. Consequently, Vrindavan Dham is as worshipful as Lord Krishna. Radha Bhagavan and open it to attract people, to attract the spiritual vision of the general populace. At present, there are about 5,000 temples in Vrindavan. To propagate these fundamental principles, we are establishing Krishna Balaram Temple to broadcast to the world that the worship of Guru Nitai is the same as worship of Krishna Balaram. Although it's very difficult to enter into Radha Krishna's pastimes, most of the devotees of Vrindavan are attracted by Radha Krishna Leela. However, since Nitai Gaur Chandra are direct incarnations of Balarama Krishna, we can be directly in touch with Lord Balaram and Lord Krishna through Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. Those who are highly advanced in Krishna consciousness can enter into the pastimes of Radha and Krishna through the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is said, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna, Nahi Anya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a combination of Radha and Krishna. Sometimes materialists, forgetting the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, and Krishna and Balaram, go to Vrindavan, accept the land's spiritual facilities and engage in material activities. This is against the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Prakriti Sahajiyas proclaim themselves to be Brajavasis or Dhampasis, but they are mainly engaged in sense gratification. Thus they become more and more implicated in the materialistic way of life. Those who are pure devotees in Krishna consciousness condemn their activities. The eternal Brajavasis like Sri Damodar did not even come to Vrindavan Dham. Pundarik Vidyanidhi, Sri Haridas Thakur, Sri Vaspandit, Sri Punisha, Sri Ramananda Roy, Sikhi Niti, Sri Madhavendra Puri, Sri Madhavi Devi, Sri Gadadhar Pandit, Goswami, they never visited Vrindavan Dham. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur points out that we have no authorized documents stating that these exalted personalities visited Vrindavan. Nonetheless, we find many non-devotees, Mayavadi sannyasis, Prakritiya Sahajiyas, fruitive workers, mental speculators, and many others with food to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's tasting the food. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performs his pastimes, which are unlimited and unfathomable. Somehow or other these have been briefly described, but it's not possible to describe all of them. Although Lord Anantadev is always described in the pastimes of the Lord with his thousands of mouths, he cannot reach the end of even one of the glories of the Lord's pastimes. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath Das, always desiring their mercy. I, Krishna Das, narrate the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Govinda Mahaprabhu ki jai. Mahaprabhu was saying, I tried to get to Vrindavan, but I couldn't go because Gadadhar Pandit. Mahaprabhu was saying, I left Gadadhar Pandit here, and he became very happy. For this reason, I could not go to Vrindavan. But earlier on, we were reading when Mahaprabhu left to go to Vrindavan and Gadadhar Pandit, they were also following. So Mahaprabhu said, Gadadhar Pandit, what are you doing? You've taken Ketra Sannyas, you're serving Gopinath deity, you should go back to stay in Jagannath Puri. So then Gadadhar Pandit mentioned, wherever you go, that place is Vrindavan. And then Mahaprabhu said that you're going to break your vows. One vow is with Ketra Sannyas, and the other vow is to serve Gopinath your whole life. You've been breaking two of your vows, and I'm responsible for that. Because you're doing it because of me, because I'm going away. And you're following. So I'm the cause of your breaking the two vows, and I'm very much painful with it. invited to see Sachimata. I'm not going with your party, I'm going with them. I'm going to see Sachimata in Navadvip. I'm not going to Vrindavan. So the Mahaprabhu said, Radha Pandit, whose happiness are you thinking of? Mine or yours? Radha Pandit is Radha Krishna. He's Radha herself. Haladini Shakti, the internal potency, where Krishna gets most of his pleasure from. Haladini potency. And that's her nature. She is Haladini Shakti personified, happiness personified. Yes, Haladini potency. The only happiness is serving Krishna by. But here we see now that then Mahaprabhu later, this is later, he said, I left Radha Pandit here and he became very unhappy. For this reason I could not go to Vrindavan. After all that, can I go to Vrindavan? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Any comment on this? Nara. Talk about Radha Man.
The Srila Prabhupada told they should learn worship from the jars in the Radha Rama temple. Can you tell about Radha Rama? Can you tell about Radha Rama temple and about the detail of Radha Rama and the process of worship to Radha Rama?
Process of worship. Radha Man temple. Radha Man. Process of worship. I asked Vishwamba Goswami, who was the priest, now is the Padmanabha Goswami, presiding priest. But before that was Vishwamba Goswami, who was very friendly with Prabhupada. And I went to see him. He was teaching me the Mahabhishekam. Krishna Balaram's appearance or Balaram's appearance? I think it's Balaram's appearance. Balaram's appearance. And I went with Kundri, the head guitar, to see the Mukunda Doctor. And we asked him, we were inviting him to come to Vrindavan Temple, Radhisham Temple. We were inviting other Goswamis to attend the festival. So then we wanted to how we can worship the deity. So then he said, come back tomorrow, I'll tell you. So, and he described the how they have the Mahabhishek ceremony, the process of it. And anyway, I was talking to him, and then he said, "Do you have any questions?" He said, "Don't be shy. You can ask any questions." And anyway, we were talking, and he said that when we do our worship,